Now then, so brand new patch. We got the Halloween event and all that kind of fun stuff. And admittedly, the patch wasn't anything like earth-shattering. There was a lot of tweaks to cards that were maybe a bit strong, needed pushing down a bit, or cards that were a little bit off and have been pushed towards relevance. So nothing major will have really changed with the meta, I don't expect. But it still gave me some ideas, looking at some of the things that were changed. Um, so if you've never watched one of these videos of mine before, the general idea is it's a deck for each faction that has caught my eye and I plan to play this season. This is by no means like a meta snapshot or like these are the best decks. These are just what I'm personally going to play, and it's kind of a here's my ideas for you. Take some free decks. Because start of the season, everyone's looking for decks. So, just before I go into the video, I do have memberships available now. If you just click the join button below the video, give you all the information you need for that. If you don't want to go the monetary route of supporting, completely fine. Things like subscribing and commenting and liking and all that kind of stuff helps me out, so anything's appreciated. And we'll go straight into the decks. For monsters, which every single day monster players suffer. Um, Despite there being changes to monsters, I think they're still not going to do that well. But I'm still going to play some Deathwish anyway. You know, monsters has for a long time been one of my favourite factions, so I'm going to at least try it. And I mean, I feel like this list's pretty interesting. We're running the usual kind of stuff in Deathwish, like Marooners, Horn, Kieran, and like Manticore. But then Mushy Truffle's a nice addition because we can get another RP. We have a lot of consumes. We can do Succubus, and Delta Lock allows us to spawn another Succubus. And we have the Crone Trio as well, just because Crone's is generally good. I think the card that will probably stick out here is the Verification, which at first I wasn't going to run, but I kind of had six provisions floating, and I was like, kind of makes sense. You know, we got Mushy Truffle, we got Dolder Lock, we got Haunt. We have enough artifacts to justify verification. And I just love verification. Nice little card. So, of course, that got thrown in. And arguably, this is going to be the best deck I actually try out. I'm kind of excited to see how Death Wish is doing. I don't expect stellar results, but I'm still going to try it anyway. So, for Nilfgaard, you'll know I have a bit of a soft spot for the soldiers kind of archetype. So this is kind of what I've thrown together. Um, I don't think it's super refined, but the general idea is we're just going for a nice little mid-range soldiers list because there was some boosts to crossbowmen, for example. So I'll give it at least a try. We're not running operators just because I still think it's kind of a bad card. Um, but we have got Mushy Truffle because we have the pikemen, so we can spam out pikemen. They're a 1 point a turn engine. Truffle's just generally good, so yeah, it's not too bad. We aren't running it in Imperial formation. This is something I was kind of thinking about. Like, do we want to get it in Imperial formation, get more armor onto some of the things we don't want damaged, so things like crossbowmen and tortoise. But instead, I went a bit of a different angle. We just kind of accept that if our opponent dumps 2 damage into a crossbowman, we're probably quite happy about that because it plays for no points for them. And instead of buffing up Tortoise, we run an I-bar instead so that any boosts they get are just benefiting us in the long run. And much the same with Nilfgaardian Knights, works exactly the same way, you know. Something gets boosted up, we're just going to take it with I-bar anyway, so there's no downside. Um, I don't know how well this is going to do. I think it's reasonable enough. It has a lot of the stuff that makes Hyper Thing good. For example, the Snowdrop kind of synergy. Another thing to note, we are running one Blight Maker. This is really because we don't need all that thinning. With this leader, what we're going to do is hopefully have a Mage Assassin in hand to be put on top of our deck along with Afan when we use our leader. So one comes from Blight Maker, one comes from leader. Jobs are good. And now for an R. Nothing too earth shattering here. Planning to play a pretty meta kind of list. I don't think too much has really changed with NR. Kind of the problem is Inspired Seal is just very, very good. Rafad's Vengeance is very, very good, and Alumni are very, very good. So that's really what I've kind of thrown together here. In terms of stuff that may be a bit weird. Banard Tutor's in there. I think that's a pretty decent card, to be honest. It plays as like a 6 for 4 and can keep some of your mages alive. And I think it's like good enough to run. And because we've got Karat Marines, we have Diversion. Mainly because there was nothing I really wanted to run that wasn't Diversion. So could maybe make an argument for Mushy Truffle and getting some bondage units in there, but nah, not for me. It also doesn't have Siege, just because I think you don't really need it. With having a lot of these like solid top ends like Gerhardt and Baron. Baron's one that will depend on matchups and things like that. It may need removing for something different. Could just straight up swap it for an Anseus if that's what you want. Um, but I think it's solid. If we see just a million Reckless Flurry decks, then sure, Baron's not going to do too much. But yeah, that's going to be meta dependent. Now for good old Scoia'tael, much of the same thing. I'm probably going to be testing a few things with Scoia'tael. I think I'm probably going to try some dwarves. Um, Probably going to go back to Invigorate with Sarah and Johnny as well. But I think just to start off, I want to see how Nature's Gift's still faring after the nerfs. And also the buff to Salve. I've thrown Salve in, taken out. I was running a Pavka, removed a Pavka, removed a Circle of Life, and put in a Elven Scribe and Salve, and that kind of made up the provision changes after the changes to Sorceress, which I think is a really good change. I think Sorceress needed a provision change. So nothing too crazy with this one. It's just the thing you've been seeing on ladder. It's a super consistent deck. Despite it being a short season, this deck did get me up to just over 2,500 very, very easily in about a night and a half. Managed to get me up, so it's a very strong deck. And I don't think there's anything I can say that you already know from playing against it. It's just got a lot of answer or lose kind of cards, and it can kind of run away very quickly. So for SK, we're running pretty much very, very similar to what I've always been running for SK for the past month or so, which is a Rain Melusine Druids deck, because honestly, I personally think this is better than Flurry. And there's a couple of reasons for this. So what you kind of have is like a very flexible game plan. You can still do your Melusine carryover kind of stuff, but it isn't the end of the world if your Melusine doesn't stick. It gets heat waved, it gets removed from your graveyard. There's other things you can do, and that comes from the ability to spawn so many Crow Clan Druids and having access to so many alchemy cards. So what this kind of allows us to do is going into like a round 3, we can play out potentially 4 Crow Clan Druids through 1 off Mushy Truffle, 1 off Gedinith, and 2 from the deck, and say they get removed. A couple of them get removed. You've got Freya's Blessings to bring them back. You've got Fukushia to bring them back. You've got Sigdriffers to bring them back. And what this kind of results in is some very, very powerful engines that, even though they start off very small, are very, very sticky. And with all the alchemy we can get, the 1 off the Mushy Truffle, the 1 off your leader, and then the 2 from Gedinith. I mean, there's 4 right there. That plays for 8 points per druid. You've got 4 druids. That's 32 points, plus the 4 points off each is another 16, 48 points. And that's like the bare minimum you'll get from that combination of cards. Obviously, if you have then like an Offering of the Sea in your hand, or you have a Giga Scorpion, or something like that, that's just more points. And I've typically found that tends to be the game winning move, not the Melusine. So a lot of the time, Melusine is basically Heatwave bait, because if Mel gets Heatwave, Geddy isn't getting Heatwaved, which is really important. So yeah, I'm going to be jamming this again. Had to make a slight change because of the provision change to the Mushy Truffle. Just dropped a Stalwart Priest to a Drakkar and kind of good to go. So didn't need too much tweaking. So I don't think anyone will be surprised by my syndicate list. It's a collusion list because I absolutely love collusion, and I think it's slightly slept on. And also, there's not that many great options for syndicate. I mean, Land Pockets is still good enough. Mid-range jackpots all right, but there's just better stuff. Um, In terms of changes, I haven't really changed too much after the patch. A couple of new inclusions is I've thrown in an apothecary. They changed that, now that's like an unconditional 6 points. We were running street urchins, they're like an unconditional 5 points, so it's already kind of better. And we've got Cogstein in instead of Kurt because we don't care about the bounty too much off Kurt. I ended up 99 times out of 100. I'm using it as a purify rather than a bounty, so I kind of don't care. And Cogstein's a blind eyes, which is one of the tags that was sometimes a little clumsy to get on the board with this deck, so works out. And Cogstein does present the opportunity for multiple purifies should we need it. Arguably one of my favourite decks, like ever, Collusion. So back to the tried and tested. And that is it for decks for this month. Don't know how much I'm gonna get to play this month, to be honest. Gonna be a bit busy, but I do have my birthday coming up on the 9th, and that week I've got off work, so I'm gonna be like streaming all the time. So if you want to watch my stream, drop me a follow, and at any given time in that week I will probably be live. So that's something to watch out for. Also on Saturday, I'm having like a Halloween party. Rhonda and I were dressing up as Geralt and Ciri. I think you can guess who's who. Nearly finished up the costume now, and I think I'll probably stream a bit before. Have a bit of fun. Get my Geralt makeup on. Get the tunic, get the braces, get the scabbard on, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to swing by for that, that would also be appreciated. And I think that's me done rambling. So yeah, enjoy the patch, enjoy the Halloween event, and I'll catch you in the next one.